Okay, we're going to talk a little bit today about a medieval manor. You can't see below, but this lighter area right here, these stand for the Lord's domain in open fields. And then this darker spot here, that is the priest land. And then this middle in-between color here is the strip fields of peasant families. So I want to give you some information more about actually what a manor looked like, how feudalism helped support this. So you're going to be doing a lot of listening right now and a lot of looking at this, but you'll be doing your project in just a few minutes, so stay with me. As I am talking, if you could write down notes on the back of your paper. Now remember, notes are just the most important things, not every single thing I'm saying. Okay, so medieval Europe had a mix of cultivation strategies. Some areas were farmed by free peasants, those who owned their own land, who mixed cultivation with fishing and herding. Most of the grain, however, came from large manors with serfs. Now, at this point in time, 90% of the population in medieval Europe were peasants, and 10% was nobles, if that gives you any indication of how big their population was. The manor, as a community of peasants organized under the authority of a lord, was a fundamental unit of economic, judicial, and social organization. The lord or his appointed officials regulated cultivation of the land as well as rents, labor services, and fines that the peasants owed to the lord in return for the land they cultivated for themselves. Now, the lands of these manors were divided into 2 or 3 large fields. Within these fields, the land was further divided into strips for cultivation, as you could see in these areas where we have fall planting, spring planting, and then the fallow over here. The lord owned all the land, but he rented strips of land in all 3 fields to the peasants, who also had a house and garden area. The strips and housing plots were protected by custom, and the right to rent them was passed on through inheritance. Peasants did not have equal holdings. Some might have as many as 30 acres and others as little as 2. These pieces of land formed the peasants' own farms to support their families and pay their rent. Interspersed with the peasants' land was the dame, and it rhymes with rain. That's the only way how I remember how to say it. And for his own use, and the peasants cultivated for him. In addition, a manor might have land reserved for a parish priest, called glebe land, which the priest either worked himself or hired laborers to work for him. Many manors had extensive meadows, forests, and wastelands where the lord hunted and the peasants grazed their animals, collected firewood, and procured timber for their houses. So if you look over here on this map, I'll make it in blue, here's the woodland area, and then here's a common pasture. And then up above where you can't see up in this area, that would be where the waste would be. Peasants paid fees to use the forests and wastelands that were part of the lord's name. Peasants often had their own common, a collectively owned meadow in which each resident had the right to graze a certain amount of animals. Peasants who had too little land to support themselves worked as laborers or had additional occupation at the manor, such as a blacksmith, a carpenter, or a baker. So looking more onto this, many of the peasants inhabiting the manor, they were serfs. Most of the peasants, basically the basic term is it's enforced labor. Men were usually obliged to work 3 days a week on the lord's land and provide additional service at a special times of the year, such as plowing and at harvest. And the serfs also paid a yearly rent on their land in goods and money. Lords also received mandatory gifts at holidays, such as eggs at Easter or chicken at Christmas, the origins of our holiday eating traditions. When a serf died and his farm passed to his son or to a daughter, if there were no sons, the family paid the lord an inheritance tax, either the best animal or money. A serf who wished to marry off his daughter paid a fine to the lord, and a serf wishing to leave the manor paid a yearly fine thereafter.